Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's LinkedIn Live. A special guest this week. I know you're all special, but some are super special. Adam Markowitz, who is the co-founder and CEO of Drata. And today we'll be talking about the company as well as his leadership. Has solutions for everyone's favorite topic, which is SOC 2 compliance. And we'll be learning a little more about that. So welcome, and thanks for joining us today, Adam.
Oh, thanks for having me, Karen.
Terrific. Maybe you could start by just telling us a little bit about Drata, sort of what it does, and why should organizations who always have sort of too much to do and too little time to do it, why should they pay attention?
Sure. Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. So Drata is a security and compliance automation platform. Drata, it connects directly to our customers' tech stack. So think their cloud infrastructure, their HR system, kind of everything in between, to continuously monitor and collect evidence of security controls, and then alert the company when these controls fail to operate effectively. And this helps companies get and stay compliant with frameworks like SOC 2, ISO 27001, GDPR, HIPAA, the list goes on, and then get there very quickly. And then, of course, stay compliant as they grow.
Yeah.
And that's important for really any company. I mean, just keeping it with SOC 2, which technically applies to any company that stores or processes data in the cloud, which is
pretty much everybody today. Yeah.
Definitely every SaaS company. And so a SOC 2 report, which is the result of any SOC 2 audit, is really the independent third-party attestation that really helps you earn trust with your prospective customers, existing customers, basically prove you're doing the things you should be doing, you say you're doing, to protect their data.
Yeah. So attestation, so not a certification, but just having some qualified organization, Drata, for example, to say at this moment in time or during this period of time, right, you were compliant.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuance, but what you said is accurate. So for SOC 2, it's not a certification, which is a really common misconception. SOC 2 it's not a pass or fail, right? The result of any audit is a SOC 2 report, and that is an attestation from a CPA firm actually that comes in and conducts the audit. And the SOC 2 Type 2 is looking back at the previous 4 to 12 month period to prove that you stayed compliant, so to speak. So you're looking over a period of time, which makes it even more important to ensure that you're doing the things and continue to do the things that you should be doing. And it's not just a one-time kind of cram for the exam type situation.
Yeah. Yes. And we have enough urgent in our lives without having to add something else on to cram about, right? So that's an important point. So you're a co-founder. How did you decide to spend your energy on this as a topic?
Good question. So prior to Drata, myself, our co-founders, we founded a company called Portfolium, which was in the education technology space, LinkedIn for college students. But it was centered around an e-portfolio instead of a LinkedIn profile or a resume. And the whole premise was to help students prove their skills to employers with evidence that would live in these e-portfolios, projects, papers, presentations. And we would sell the software into universities, and they would onboard their students into this network. And so over a few year period, we had almost 400 schools and 5 million students in this network. But it was selling into universities where we first kind of experienced the pain that we're now solving with Drata. And that was before the university would hand over student data to populate the network, they needed assurance that we would do the right things to protect that data. And so they would request our SOC 2 report in order to serve as that kind of that evidence, that proof point. So after going through that the old-fashioned way, so to speak, we started building tools to help streamline, eventually automate, so that we could obviously maintain that security posture. And the irony, it was still centered around trust, right? Portfolio was helping students earn the trust of employers, and then we needed to prove our own security posture to the university to earn their trust. And so now both companies are centered around this core value, this core tenet of trust, earning trust by proving you deserve it. Obviously, both different applications, different industries, but same core principle.
Yeah, there's a tagline: earning trust by proving you deserve it. Love it. So talk a little bit, what is the painful method that you and others use, and how does automation at Drata make that better?
Yeah, so the painful pieces are, well, for SOC 2 specifically, the SOC 2 framework doesn't provide a list of controls or rules for you to implement. It provides a list of criteria, and it's up to you and your company to design and implement and collect evidence of controls and then map those to the SOC 2 criteria. to prove that you're satisfying them in an audit. So first of all, just knowing which controls to put in place across your org. These span from how you deploy code, how you do change management, all of your cloud infrastructure configuration, how you literally hire, train, onboard, offboard employees. There's a wide array of control that span pretty much every area of the company. And then the real kicker is once you do implement them, you need to collect evidence throughout the year to prove that they're staying in place and they're operating effectively. And unless you're using something like Drata to help you automate that, these controls might fail to operate effectively, which obviously hurts both security and future compliance audits. But you're also going to have to manually collect evidence, which usually comes in the form of screenshots, lots and lots of screenshots, lots of shared drive folders, lots of spreadsheets. And those are almost dirty words around here at Drata. We try to minimize those as much as possible.
Yeah. And so can you tell us how does Drata go about automating that?
Sure, yeah. So it's pretty unique in that Drata will connect directly to our customers' tech stack. And so by doing that, we're able to continuously monitor these controls wherever they might live. So Drata connects to over 75 different systems in a pretty unique way, where it's read-only access. Drata is not able to write to or change anything in these systems, these sensitive systems, but it is pulling the data in every day, analyzing it, making sure that these controls continue to operate effectively, and then it'll alert the appropriate people at the company if tomorrow, let's say, a gap forms, a gap that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. And so that would have been obviously a security gap, and then a future compliance gap during an audit.
That's great.
You'll always know how audit ready you are, how your controls are operating, and then you'll be able to prove it, not just during audits, but to your customers any day of the year. So that's some of the more unique angles. And then when it does come time for your audits, Drata partners with audit firms that use the software to help really expedite, streamline the entire audit itself. So we've had customers literally save 90% of the time that they would have spent in prior years with their auditor. So the time savings, the peace of mind, it's all baked in.
Yeah. So you've understandably had tremendous growth since your incorporation. If my research is right, 14 months out of stealth and one of the fastest SaaS companies to achieve $1 billion of valuation. So congrats on that. So wonderful reception to this much needed product. But what's that been like for you as a co-founder and CEO to go through that sort of growth within the organization?
It's pretty surreal, to be completely honest. It's I think from day one here, I think just with the prior experience at Portfolium, so much of that team coming back together here, and also just what was going on in the world back in 2020 when we first launched and came out of stealth. There was just this appreciation. I keep coming back to that from day one of just first being healthy enough to do this, appreciation from our prior experience of knowing how difficult starting a company is. And so we want to really just show our appreciation for by giving it obviously everything we had. And that was appreciation was baked into the culture, I think, from day one. And then just with how well received the product was in the market, how fast everything grew, the appreciation then grew for how unprecedented that growth was. And so we just this really amazing virtuous cycle, kind of flywheel effect of giving us everything that we have and attracting other folks that match that mindset, that culture. It's just been incredible.
That's wonderful. Speaking of growth in the last couple of years, I want to acknowledge you have a 2- and 3-year-old who are sort of in the area. And I, for one, am loving hearing them in the background. So not only have you been busy with this growth, you've had your handful with those children as they went from infants really over this time.
Oh, yeah.
How do you juggle that?
Our little Drata knots.
Drata knots.
My wife is everything. And yeah, just that makes us, again, that appreciation, the perspective. Every one of my Zoom calls, just from day one, I had a picture of my daughter on my shoulders. And it was a personal photo, but it just kind of became my Zoom avatar. And I've never got rid of it, even though she's, they grow so fast. It's already an old picture. It's just every meeting starts with that little jolt of perspective. And it's been the best.
Yeah. Well, hearing you talk about perspective and appreciation, I'm getting a sense of your leadership style. But could you talk a little bit about your leadership strategy, how you lead the organization, and how you've managed to lead the organization through a period of such tremendous hypergrowth?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think coming back to our core value of trust. We are in the business of trust. It is the reason why we exist. It's everything. I think that definitely plays a role in kind of my leadership style. One, wanting to attract the highest caliber talent possible that matches the culture that we have, and then really trusting them to own the role and the accountability and everything that comes with it, really getting out of their way, so to speak. If anything, removing obstacles that might get in their way. That's how I view my role, and definitely the leadership style, I think. And it attracts a certain kind of archetype that wants to come here and kind of paint their masterpiece and know that they're going to have the freedom to do it and the trust to take risks, because it's the only way you're going to be able to move fast. And I think trust and speed go hand in hand.
Yeah, completely agree. And with taking risks also comes having, failures, right? How do you enforce or reinforce in the organization that it's okay to fail as a result of taking a risk?
It's not easy. It kind of goes against human nature a lot of times. It definitely goes against the norms of other companies employees might be coming from. And so it could be a little bit of a culture shock when you come somewhere and it's actually frowned upon to not be taking risks. That's actually not okay. When the mistakes are made, as long as we're learning from them, sharing them, which also kind of goes against human nature sometimes. You want to brush something under the rug or try to solve it real quick before anyone notices things don't work here, because it slows everyone down. Now other people are going to repeat that mistake, and that's the part that's not okay. Mistakes are going to happen. As long as the trust is there and then the freedom to make those mistakes and learn from them, that's what's most important.
Yeah, that's great. That just reminds me, I was an early employee at Compact Computer, as you might remember, who went through our own hypergrowth. But one of the things the first CFO said that I thought was just so essential to our culture. So this is a CFO speaking, and he said, "Bring me your problems when they're small." He said, too often we're just afraid to admit that we have a problem or we might have made a mistake. And so we hold on to it and we hope that it will go away. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And then it just gets bigger and the impacts get worse. And then you have to carry it around, and you don't feel very good for carrying it around. But by the time you bring it to me, now instead of being this little problem, it's this giant problem. And now we have a thing we have to deal with. Just bring them to me when they're small.
Exactly. And no surprises, right?
Exactly.
There's always going to be problems. Whenever you're growing as fast as you are and you're basically doing the impossible, of course there's problems, right? Like, I don't go as far as to say we're going to celebrate mistakes and failure, but we are definitely going to learn from it and look at it as a good thing.
Yeah, completely. So I'm thinking about sort of Drata and what you've been through. What's next? Are you just trying to sort of keep the wheels under you or keep your skis under you? Or do you have sort of a vision for what will be next?
Yeah, with how fast things move here, what you're planning for, instead of just being 3-6 months out, it's 18 months out, and it happens just like that.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly iterating. I mean, from day one, putting the customer at the center of really everything that we do has allowed us to move also as fast as we have, from both the product standpoint and also the direction that we've envisioned going. Our vision for Drata is to really be that trust layer between our customers and those they do business with. The way in which they prove their real-time, continuous security posture. On top of that, system of record, so to speak, we believe we could build unlimited applications. Obviously, compliance automation is where it began, but we've already released new products and modules around risk management, Trust Center, which is like a continuous forward-facing view of their security posture. Kind of the same way SaaS companies will proudly boast of their uptime and availability.
Sure.
We envision a future where companies are able to showcase exactly how strong their security posture is every day. And I always go back to that analogy of the rating in the window of restaurants when the inspector comes and how clean the kitchen is. And it kind of reminds me of a little bit of audits in that it's always looking back whenever the audit happened or whenever the inspector was there. But companies have data every single day, and their systems are processing and storing data every day. And so every day is an opportunity for a gap to form. And in the future, we're able to showcase every day how well we're doing there and have it be a point of pride instead of something that we're maybe trying to hide.
Yeah, that's terrific. So with such a, sort of large vision and so much success, I know you've also taken on some investment. How have you gone about choosing your investors? I think that's such an important thing. We talk about the importance of hiring talent, very important. But also, I think choosing the right investor to make sure that you're aligned is also super critical to success. So how have you gone about that?
Yeah, I come back to trust. I mean, it's the center. Every relationship needs to be based on trust, and so that plays a huge role. There's something I think they call company VC, founder VC fit, and trust plays a big role in that. More gas in the tank doesn't necessarily help you go faster, and so it's about aligning yourself with either the partners, the firm, both that are going to help you when you most need it in ways that you likely can't help yourself. Outside of just funding, there is just incredible value that investors bring, that your board brings to help you really accomplish the impossible. And having that trust, the freedom to make mistakes and take chances, like all of that goes into deciding who you want to work with. And I say that again with this appreciation because that's not always the case. I could tell you in prior lives, prior companies, you don't get to be as picky, so to speak, with who your investors are. And so again, appreciating that and taking full advantage of that to make sure we're aligned with the best VCs in the world.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And this ability, as we talked about within the organization, to have a tolerance for risk and an expectation of failure that you learn from. Your investors / now partners really need to have the same expectation of you in the organization, right?
Yep. It's, who do you want to pick up the phone and call at 2 a.m. when it feels like your hair is on fire and you need help? Who's experienced enough to not hit the panic button when things might not be going exactly to plan, because they never go to plan.
Yeah, life is not a straight line ever, right? But
exactly.
near to plan. Yeah. So terrific. I think the only other thing I really wanted to hear about is just in terms of you and your leadership. You've had this very successful career now. You're now a serially successful entrepreneur. Congratulations. Was there a moment when you knew that you were going to be successful as an entrepreneur? What I think about is sort of your up into the right moment, because that's the tagline for my consulting business.
I think as entrepreneurs, you have to be a little crazy to say, I'm going to attempt something with 99+% failure rate, but have the mindset that I'm obviously going to be a part of the less than 1%. Gotta have a screw loose or two. So that's important. I mean, when I left aerospace to start Portfolium, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, but all the conviction and all the passion in the world, and that's served me well in my past. And I think if anything, with Drata, there was from the perspective, one, I couldn't play the naive card. I knew exactly how hard it was to start.
Right.
But I was actually more confident in who I was surrounded by, right? It's the people that I've met, the people I get to work with every day. They're inspiring. They give you confidence to know that we're going up and to the right. And then when it actually comes to fruition, it's that much more special. Because again, I think the word that we use around here for the last 18 months since we came out of stealth is unprecedented. I mean, everything is unprecedented, and we're just, you got to enjoy that journey because it's rare.
Yeah, love that, and love enjoying the journey. You mentioned coming out of aerospace, so you were an aerospace engineer, right? And then decided entrepreneurship is the way for me.
Yeah, kind of zigzag there. I was working on NASA's space shuttle program after undergrad in 2008. And in 2011, NASA retired the fleet, and I joke around, I say I retired along with the space shuttle program. But what I really meant was I was let go.
That's great. Wow. Yeah. Well, you're probably as glued as I am to all the images being released from the Webb telescope. So it's a big day for space and NASA today. Well, Adam, thank you so very much. It's wonderful to hear about Drata and the good work you're doing and making available for organizations in such a critically important area. SOC compliance is a good example. And I wish you and your team the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen.
All right. Take good care.
Take care.